There exists a particular breed of human being who lives differently than others. Not better, not worse, just differently. They are the ones who seem to contain weather systems inside their chests, who look at the world with a hunger that makes comfortable people uncomfortable, who ask questions that feel somehow inappropriate, even when they're perfectly polite. These are the romantic outliers. And if you've ever been one, or loved one, or wondered why certain people seem to burn at a different temperature than everyone else, this is for you. Because what we're about to explore is not a celebration of suffering. It's not a romanticization of pain. It's something more unsettling and more true. The understanding that certain souls evolve not through gentle increments, but through ceremonial endings, through collapse and rebirth, through the underworld and back. They are the people whose hearts know how to die the most glorious deaths, and in those deaths, they discover what it means to truly live.
Let's start with the mind of the outlier. The wisest outliers are always low-key, outrageously unhinged. Not in the way that requires medication or intervention, but in the way that refuses domestication. Their sanity is elastic, their fascinations borderless, their mind a marketplace where sacred theories flirt with forbidden ones. They are absurdly curious and intellectually promiscuous in the best possible sense. They wander through ideas the way nomads wander deserts, tasting every mirage just to see if it's secretly water. They don't stay on the paved roads of acceptable thought. They don't respect the no trespassing signs that academic disciplines post at their borders. They ask questions that feel illegal, not because they're trying to be provocative, but because they genuinely want to know. They wonder about things that polite intellects tiptoe around. They pursue thoughts that make others nervous. Why? Because something inside them refuses to accept that any territory of human experience should be off limits to investigation. They sit at the edge of every discipline, dangling their feet over the abyss, laughing at boundaries like they're decorative fences.
Philosophy meets neuroscience meets mysticism meets mathematics. Poetry crashes into physics, ancient wisdom collides with cutting-edge technology. And instead of seeing these collisions as category errors, the outlier sees them as creative friction, the sparks that start fires. They collect half-formed notions, cosmic contradictions, abandoned philosophies, anything with a pulse of wonder. Their mental archive looks like chaos to the organized mind. A thought from Heraclitus, next to a theory from quantum mechanics, next to a line from a pop song that somehow contains the same truth. They're building something, but it doesn't look like anyone else's architecture. They're unhinged, not in chaos, but in freedom. The hinge is simply the part that no longer holds them to convention. Think about that metaphor for a moment. A door that's hinged swings in predictable arcs. It opens only so far. It closes in only one way. It's controlled, reliable, safe. But a door that's unhinged, it can fall in any direction. It can become something else entirely, a table, a ramp, a wall, a window. It's no longer bound to its original function. The outlier mind has removed certain hinges. Not all of them. They're not completely untethered from reality, but enough that they can move in ways that hinged minds cannot. And their curiosity isn't innocent. It prowls. It seduces. This is crucial to understand. The curiosity of a romantic outlier is not the gentle curiosity of a child asking, "Why is the sky blue?" It's the feral curiosity of something hunting, something that has caught a scent and won't stop until it tracks the idea to its lair. It drags them into territories that polite intellects tiptoe around. Sex and death, power and surrender, the shadow side of love, the hidden motives beneath noble actions, the ways we lie to ourselves, the things we pretend not to know, the truths we've collectively agreed not to speak. The outlier goes there, not for shock value, but because that's where the treasure is buried. This is why outliers become wise. They let their mind misbehave in the service of truth. They understand something fundamental. Convention exists to make life manageable, but truth exists whether it's manageable or not. And sometimes accessing truth requires breaking the rules of polite inquiry.
They let their imagination trespass in the service of revelation. Every major breakthrough in human understanding came from someone willing to trespass, to go where they weren't supposed to go, to think what they weren't supposed to think, to see what everyone agreed not to see. Galileo trespassed against religious authority. Darwin trespassed against comfortable beliefs about human specialness. Freud trespassed against Victorian propriety. Einstein trespassed against Newtonian certainty. The outliers are continuing that tradition, but they're doing it not just in science or philosophy, but in the laboratory of their own consciousness. Their brilliance is not tidy, it is feral. And that is why it works. Tidy brilliance follows established paths. It produces incremental improvements. It gets published in respected journals and wins conventional awards. Feral brilliance creates new paths. It produces paradigm shifts. It gets dismissed, then debated, then decades later recognized as obvious. The romantic outlier knows this and chooses feral anyway. Because the alternative, domesticating their curiosity, filing down the sharp edges of their questions, staying safely within the boundaries of acceptable thought, would be a kind of death. And they're saving death for something more important. Which brings us to Thanatos. Highly intelligent outliers often possess an exceptionally strong death drive, Thanatos, carrying an undeniable, almost sensual darkness. Now, before you misunderstand, this is not about suicide or self-destruction in any conventional sense. This is about something far more nuanced and far more powerful. Not the darkness of despair, but the darkness of a mine shaft where precious metals hide. The darkness of a womb before illumination. The darkness of potential before it chooses a direction. In Freudian theory, Thanatos is paired with Eros, the life drive. They're not opposites so much as complements. Eros builds, connects, creates. Thanatos breaks down, separates, dissolves. But here's what most people miss. Both are necessary. Both are creative. You cannot build something truly new without first dismantling the old structure. You cannot become your next self without allowing your current self to die. This drive is not merely physical, it infiltrates the psychic, the symbolic, the mythic. It's the reason you sometimes feel an urge to burn your life down, even when nothing is technically wrong. It's the reason you sabotage relationships that are perfectly fine. It's the reason you abandon projects right before completion. It's not because you're broken,
It's because something in you knows that the container you're in has become too small. The secret architecture of endings that all creation requires. Think of it. Every painting begins with destroying the perfect emptiness of a blank canvas. Every sculpture begins with violence against stone. Every garden requires pulling out the old plants to make room for new ones. Creation and destruction are not opposites. They're partners in an endless dance. Thanatos is the instinct to dismantle illusions, to tear out falsehoods by their roots, to strip the psyche down to its elemental truth. This is where it becomes psychological rather than physical. The death drive in conscious, intelligent people doesn't usually express as literal self-destruction. It expresses as an almost compulsive need to destroy illusions. Illusions about who you are. Illusions about what you want. Illusions you've been carrying since childhood about how life is supposed to work. The outlier can't tolerate these comfortable lies. Something in them would rather face harsh truth than live in pleasant delusion. It expresses itself through inner aggression, disruption, sabotage, the sudden ending of relationships that were working but weren't true, the abandonment of careers that were successful but weren't meaningful, the dismantling of self-concepts that were socially acceptable but weren't authentic. From the outside, this looks self-destructive. From the inside, it feels like liberation. Not as destruction for its own sake, but as a ritualized breaking of old containers that can no longer hold the expanding self. This is the key insight. The romantic outlier isn't destroying randomly. They're destroying strategically. Like a snake shedding skin that no longer fits, like a lobster breaking its own shell in order to grow.
It is the urge to burn the obsolete version of you so the next one has space to rise. And here's the paradox. This burning is an act of love, self-love, a refusal to trap yourself in a version of you that's already dying. Most people cling to their old selves long past the expiration date. They wear identities that stopped fitting years ago. They perform versions of themselves that feel like costumes. The outlier can't do this. The death drive won't let them. This drive is the haunting call of the underworld. In myth, the underworld is not hell. It's the place of transformation. It's where Persephone becomes queen, where Inanna is stripped to her essence, where Orpheus goes to retrieve what was lost. Not a lure toward physical death, but toward psychological descent, the stripping, the shedding, the confrontation with everything unintegrated. This is the journey the outlier takes again and again, down into their own depths, into the parts of themselves they've been avoiding, into the truths they've been denying, into the pain they've been postponing.
Not because they're masochistic, but because they understand something essential. For within the descent lies release and decompression, the sacred unburdening that only darkness can offer. Think of how pressure builds when you avoid what needs to be felt. How tension accumulates when you refuse what needs to be acknowledged. How weight increases when you carry what needs to be released. The descent offers relief. Not the relief of escape, but the relief of finally facing what is. Thanatos is paradox in its purest form, an existential longing for dissolution in order to attain equilibrium. You long to fall apart so you can finally rest. You long to be undone so you can be remade. You long for the ending
so the new beginning can arrive. A craving for symbolic death in order to reclaim vitality. Because here's the strange alchemy. The parts of you that you allow to die are the parts that were already exhausted. The false self, the performance, the mask. These things require enormous energy to maintain. When you let them die, that energy becomes available for living. For those in whom this primordial pull is intensely alive, the soul's own disassembly becomes the blueprint for evolution. They molt through their ruin. This is perhaps the most beautiful phrase for what we're describing. They don't avoid the ruin. They don't try to prevent the breaking. They move through it with intention, with consciousness, with an understanding that this breaking is how they grow. Here, Thanatos morphs into something alchemical. In alchemy, the nigredo, the blackening, the putrefaction, is not the failure of the process, it's a necessary stage. The material must break down completely before it can be reconstituted in a higher form. The outlier is an alchemist of the self, and Thanatos is their nigredo. The Ouroboros gateway, the mouth of the serpent that devours the old so the new may emerge. The Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, is one of humanity's oldest symbols. It represents the cycle of death and rebirth, the way endings are also beginnings, the way destruction creates space for creation.
The romantic outlier lives inside this symbol. They are always simultaneously ending and beginning. A portal not to annihilation but to reincarnation of identity. Each death of self is not an ending but a transformation. You're not becoming less, you're becoming different, more accurate, more aligned, more true. A disciplined descent that becomes ascent in disguise. And here's where mastery enters. The outlier learns to work with this drive rather than be destroyed by it. They learn to make the descent intentional, to bring consciousness to the breaking, to extract meaning from the dissolution. To master this drive is not to obey it blindly, but to harness its transformative architecture. Like learning to surf, you don't fight the wave, but you don't just let it tumble you either. You learn its patterns, you develop technique, you ride it with skill. It becomes a secret engine of genius, the oracle housed within the void. Because here's what few people understand. The willingness to repeatedly dismantle yourself is what allows for continuous reinvention. While others are defending old positions, you're already building new ones. While others are protecting outdated versions of themselves, you're already becoming someone else.
This is a competitive advantage masquerading as a psychological liability. The whisper that says, what you outgrow must be allowed to die, so that what you are becoming can finally breathe. This is the wisdom the death drive carries, not a message of hopelessness, but a message of liberation. You don't have to be who you were. You don't have to defend past versions of yourself. You don't have to maintain coherence with your younger self's choices. You can let it die. All of it. And in that letting go, you can finally become who you're meant to be next.
Now let's turn to the heart. Because everything we've said about the mind and the psyche applies even more intensely to how the romantic outlier loves. The greatest romantics possess hearts that know how to die the most glorious of deaths. And here we must be careful, because our culture has taught us to see heartbreak as failure, as something to avoid, as evidence that love didn't work. But the romantic outlier understands something different.
Because real love is an initiation, a series of endings disguised as openings. Every time you love deeply, something in you must die. Your autonomy dies a little. Your self-sufficiency dies. Your illusion of control dies. Your carefully maintained identity dies. This is terrifying to most people, so they love shallowly, carefully, strategically, in ways that minimize the dying. But the romantic outlier can't do this, won't do this. A romantic heart dies every time it outgrows a smaller version of tenderness.
You thought love was one thing, passionate intensity. Then it dies and becomes something else, steady commitment. Then that dies and becomes something else, radical acceptance. Then that dies and becomes sacred witness. Each transformation requires releasing the previous understanding, letting it die. It dies when it sheds its innocence, that moment when you realize love doesn't fix things, when you discover that devotion doesn't guarantee reciprocation, when you learn that wanting someone badly enough doesn't make them capable of meeting you. The innocent heart has to die for the wise heart to emerge. When it realizes that devotion is not decoration, when you understand that love is not about grand gestures and dramatic moments, that devotion is the unsexy work of showing up when you'd rather leave, of choosing someone when the initial infatuation has faded, of staying when staying requires actual sacrifice, when it learns that longing can be both wound and wisdom.
The ache of missing someone teaches you about your capacity for connection. The pain of wanting what you can't have teaches you about desire itself. The suffering of unrequited love teaches you about the nature of love independent of reciprocation. Their hearts die in ceremonies, quiet collapses, soft implosions, the private funerals held for expectations that no longer serve. No one sees these deaths. They happen in the middle of the night when you finally admit something you've been denying. They happen in the space between breaths when you feel your heart crack open. They happen in moments of devastating clarity when you realize something is over. These are ceremonies of release, sacred in their way, necessary. They know that to love deeply is to let certain illusions fall away like petals surrendering to gravity. The illusion that love conquers all, the illusion that the right person will complete you, the illusion that intensity equals compatibility, the illusion that pain means you're doing it wrong.
Petal by petal, these illusions fall. And what remains is something stronger, truer, more resilient. These deaths aren't tragic, they are incandescent. This is what we must understand. The death of illusions about love is not the end of love. It's the purification of love. The burning away of everything that isn't actually love. What remains after the burning glows brighter. They are the moments when the heart refuses to become hardened and chooses instead to become truer. Here's the fork in the road that every wounded heart faces. You can close down, or you can open more deeply. You can build walls, or you can build capacity. You can protect yourself from future pain, or you can learn to hold pain without being destroyed by it. The romantic outlier chooses the second path,
every time. A romantic heart dies each time it chooses vulnerability over armor. It would be so much easier to guard yourself, to keep people at arm's length, to never risk this kind of breaking again.
But something in the romantic outlier refuses that safety. They choose to stay open even after being hurt. They choose to trust again even after betrayal. They choose to love again even after loss. This is not naivety. This is courage of the highest order. Truth over performance. They stop pretending. Stop performing the version of love that looks good on social media. Stop maintaining the appearance of perfect partnership. They get real, even when real is messy and unflattering and complicated. Depth over convenience. They refuse the easy relationship, the surface connection, the arrangement that works on paper but doesn't feed the soul. They'd rather be alone than be shallowly partnered. They'd rather struggle in a deep connection than coast in a shallow one. And each time it resurrects, it rises with new language, new stamina, new chambers carved from honesty. Each death expands the heart, creates new capacity, teaches new wisdom, builds new strength. You don't just recover from heartbreak, you're rebuilt by it, upgraded, made capable of loving in ways you weren't before.
The greatest romantics aren't fragile, they are forged. This is the truth that observers miss. They see someone who's been through multiple heartbreaks and think damaged. They see someone who loves intensely and think unstable. But the romantic outlier isn't fragile. They've been through the fire so many times, they've become fire-resistant. They've broken so many times, they've learned how to break and remake themselves, reborn again and again in the kiln of their own intensity. A kiln fires clay into ceramic. It doesn't destroy, it transforms. It makes something that was soft and malleable into something that's hard and permanent. Every intense love is a firing. Every heartbreak is a transformation. Every death of the heart is a making of something stronger. Their heart's many deaths become a map. Not a map of where not to go, but a map of the territory. Evidence that they have been to the underworld and returned. Proof that they know the terrain of love in its entirety. The heights and the depths. The ecstasy and the agony.
This makes them guides, mentors, people who can hold space for others going through what they've survived. Proof that love can destroy and recreate you, and that the recreation is always more exquisite than what stood before. This is the promise. This is the reason for enduring the deaths. Not despite them, but because of them, you become more capable of love, more able to hold complexity, more willing to show up fully, more authentic in your devotion. The person who emerges from the kiln is not who entered it. They are finer, truer, more themselves.
So here we have three faces of the same archetype. The romantic dies through feeling. Their emotions are not decorative, they are transformative. Every feeling is felt fully, which means every feeling changes them. Joy expands them. Grief deepens them. Longing teaches them. Pain refines them. They don't feel in comfortable, manageable doses. They feel in waves that drown them, in fires that consume them, in earthquakes that shatter them. And each time they die a little, and each time they rise changed. The intellectual outlier dies through curiosity and psyche. Their questions dismantle them. Their insights require them to release old frameworks.
Their understanding evolves, which means old understandings must be released. Every paradigm shift is a death of the previous worldview. Every breakthrough is a breaking of the previous container of thought. They are not learning new information, they are being unmade and remade by what they discover.
The lover dies through desire and devotion. Their wanting changes them. Their devotion transforms them. Their love requires them to become someone new, someone capable of this kind of love. They die to their selfishness. They die to their fear. They die to their need for control. They die to everything that prevents full union. And in dying to these things, they become more alive to the person they love. All three speak the same language, that deep humans evolve not in gentle increments, but in ceremonial endings. This is the unifying insight. The romantic outlier in thinking, feeling, loving doesn't evolve smoothly. They evolve catastrophically, through crisis, through breaking, through what looks from the outside like destruction, but from the inside is transformation, through collapse and rebirth. They fall apart, then they put themselves back together. Then they fall apart in a new way. Then they put themselves back together in a new configuration. This is not instability. This is radical evolution through hunger and devotion.
They are driven by both, by the hunger for more truth, more feeling, more connection, more understanding, and by devotion to something beyond themselves, to truth, to beauty, to love, to meaning. The hunger pulls them forward. The devotion gives them direction. Through the underworld and back, they make the descent into shadow, into darkness, into the parts of themselves and life that others avoid. They go down into the depths where the precious things are buried, and they return, changed, carrying treasures, having died to one version of themselves and been reborn as another. This is the hero's journey, but played out not in mythic narratives, but in actual lives, in real psyches, in human hearts.
So what does it mean to live as a romantic outlier? It means accepting that you will never be comfortable. Comfort requires staying the same. Comfort requires not asking dangerous questions. Comfort requires loving safely. Comfort requires dying slowly, imperceptibly, over decades. You've chosen the other path, the path of deliberate, conscious, repeated dying and being reborn. It means you will confuse people. They will watch you end things that seem to be working. They will watch you sabotage apparent success. They will watch you choose intensity over stability, depth over ease, truth over comfort. And they will not understand. They will project their fears onto your choices. They will call you unstable, self-destructive, unable to commit. Let them. Their understanding is not required for your transformation. It means you will sometimes feel alone, because there aren't many people who live this way. Most people are trying to build stability, accumulate security, minimize risk, avoid pain.
You're doing the opposite. You're seeking the edges, courting the transformations, welcoming the deaths that lead to rebirths. This path is lonelier, but it's also richer, deeper, more vividly alive. It means you will be misunderstood, especially by those who love you. They will watch you suffer and want to rescue you. They will watch you choose difficulty and want to stop you. They will watch you break and want to fix you.
But you don't need rescuing or stopping or fixing. You need to be witnessed, trusted, allowed to complete your transformations. The people who can do this, who can watch you die and be reborn without trying to prevent it, these are your real family. It means your life will be a work of art rather than a work of engineering. Engineering seeks to eliminate variables, minimize uncertainty, create predictable outcomes. Art embraces the unknown, works with chaos, creates beauty from breaking. Your life won't make sense as a resume or a timeline. It will make sense as a narrative, as mythology, as the story of a soul that refused to settle for anything less than its full becoming.
It means you will know things others don't know, because you've been places they haven't gone. You've felt things they've avoided. You've faced truths they've denied. You've died deaths they've prevented. This gives you a kind of knowing that can't be taught or explained.
Proof that the path exists. You won't have to advertise. Your presence will be enough. The fact that you've survived your own deaths and are still choosing to live fully, this becomes a beacon. It means your heart will be simultaneously more wounded and more whole than others. More wounded because you've felt more whole because you've integrated more. You carry your scars like honors. They are not evidence of your fragility, but of your strength.
A heart that has never broken is not strong. It's simply untested. Your heart has been tested in fire again and again, and it keeps choosing to stay open. It means you will create things that others cannot, because creation requires destruction. Innovation requires demolishing the old. New paradigms require releasing old ones. Your willingness to die gives you access to creative power that self-protective people cannot reach. They're too busy maintaining what is to discover what could be. It means your life will be your message, not your words, not your achievements, but the way you move through the world, the way you transform, the way you remain open, the way you die and live again. People will see this, and some will understand. Some will be changed by witnessing it. Some will find permission in your example. And that is enough. So here is the truth about being a romantic outlier. It is not easier. It is not safer. It is not more comfortable. But it is more alive. It is the difference between existing and living, between maintaining and becoming, between protecting yourself from life and surrendering to its full transformative force. You are the people who break open the sky, not because you're trying to, but because you refuse to stay contained. You refuse to live small. You refuse to love carefully. You refuse to think safely. And in your refusal, you create cracks, openings, possibilities. You show what's possible when a human being chooses full aliveness over partial safety. Your mind misbehaves in the service of truth. Your heart breaks in the service of love. Your psyche dismantles in the service of evolution. This is not pathology. This is purpose. You are doing what you came here to do, to transform, to evolve, to become, and in doing so, to show others that transformation is possible. The world needs people who are willing to die and be reborn, who are willing to love dangerously, who are willing to think dangerously, who are willing to feel dangerously. Because danger is where breakthrough lives. Safety is where calcification lives. You have chosen danger. You have chosen the repeated death. You have chosen the path of the outlier. And in doing so, you have chosen to truly live. Your brilliance is feral. Your love is molten. Your mind is unhinged from convention. And this, exactly this, is what makes you extraordinary. Not despite your intensity, because of it. Not despite your deaths, because of them. Not despite your refusal to be contained, because of it. You are the myth, the archetype, the one who descends and returns, the one who dies and lives again, the one who breaks open the sky. And we are all better for it.